Well, one of the Panda members is a doctor, and who was speaking to another doctor who had a fairly bad, severe flu-like symptoms, a proper bout of COVID, had recovered fully. He was walking around with the mask, and he said to him, why are you doing that? You've been infected, you've recovered. And he said, no, you can get reinfected by this thing, and it can make me sick again. And to hear that coming from a doctor's mouth, the layers of negation of basic medical immunological knowledge that are going through that doctor's mind to get him to say that, it's I find that kind of thing quite scary.
Yeah,
I find that really alarming. Informed people,
And I think, again, though, I think it's a lot about people leading busy lives. So yes, he completely understands everything he's been taught about virology in the past, and he's doing a really, really busy day job. He doesn't have time to investigate virology now.
Yes.
And then the world tells him, authoritative people tell him, this is different. This virus is unlike any other we've seen before.
Yes.
Does he stop and question that and actually read all the immunology books again so that he can say, no, it's not? Because it takes a lot of effort, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very an astute perspective in that situation. Talk to me a little bit. Do you have any ideas on the importance of asymptomatic transmission?
Yeah, I do. I think what we've got wrong with COVID is all about testing, as you know. So when you have a syndrome or a disease, it's defined by what the doctor sees, right? The doctor sees this patient who has shortness of breath, cough, tightness of the chest, low saturation with oxygen, all of that picture. That's COVID. And you design a test that can pick up COVID. But the syndrome, the disease, the symptoms should be the definition. And we completely turned that on its head. And instead, the test became the definition.
Yes.
When you do that, the number of symptoms gets longer and longer and longer and longer. And then you include asymptomatic people because it's the test defining it and not the syndrome, which is absolutely rubbish. It's just nonsense. And the other thing that I find extraordinary is that some doctors even seem to think that our immune systems act like a bubble around us. That
that the virus bounces off your skin.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's not immunity. It can go in, it'll invade.
It has to.
So the asymptomatic people who are PCR positive but have no symptoms, have immunity. That is what immunity is.
Yes.
They're not diseased, they are immune.
That's right. You've been infected and you didn't generate symptoms, you're immune.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've often joked that a better name for this virus than coronavirus disease, better name for the disease than coronavirus disease would have been asymptomatic SARS or immune SARS.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of this idea that you call it a COVID case on the basis of a test, even though the term COVID contains the word disease, yet none of the people are diseased. That for me has been the complete travesty here, and the responsible for the greater part of the malarkey than anything else.
Yeah. So the other thing about asymptomatic spread, right, is that people refer to three types of evidence when they're talking about asymptomatic transmission. The first they refer to is people being PCR positive who are asymptomatic, which I think we've covered. That's fine. Then they say, but you can actually culture the virus from these people that are asymptomatic. You're like, yeah, that's still immunity. That's fine also.
Yes.
To transmit the virus, transmission occurs at least in a part because of the coughing. So that when virus goes into your lungs and it replicates in the cells, and then it bursts the cells open, you end up with raw surface of your lungs, which causes you to feel unwell and cough and have symptoms. And it's the coughing that's producing viral particles into the environment that people inhale. And so even the evidence about how much pre-symptomatic people transmit. You know, they transmit way less than once you're coughing, and coughing's the biggie.
Sure.
But the other evidence, the evidence of just like where they try to show who caught it from who. So you get these studies of, you know, like the person sat on a bus and these people on the bus caught it, that kind of thing. And so the studies each individually end up being quite anecdotal. So they're meaningless until you pull them all together. And if you go back to the raw data and say, right, where is this data about asymptomatic super spreaders? Where does it come from? There are two lots of evidence. There's a pile of evidence saying asymptomatic super spreaders is a true, real, scary, important thing that we have to be terrified of, and it's, you know, they really spread it. And then there's a pile of evidence that says we completely failed to find that. We looked and looked, and we just didn't find that asymptomatic people managed to spread it at all. And the ones that say it's real are all published in China. And then what's happened is people have come along and they've taken both those piles and they've mixed them together and taken an average number. Right. And said, you know, somebody from some kind of authoritative Western university will publish a paper taking both of those sources of evidence and using an average number and saying this is a fact. And so everybody has then believed it because it's being put into these meta-analyses.
What did you make of Maria Kirchhofer coming out that day all of a sudden without any warning and telling the world that asymptomatic transmission was rare?
I thought she was a hero. I really did. I loved that interview. She's a WHO woman, yeah?
Director of Science.
Yes.
And then the next day, the World Health Organization forcing her to walk it back.
Yeah, that was quite disturbing.
How do you think the World Health Organization is going to climb down from this position? Can they?
I don't know. I think it's a sort of living organism, the World Health Organization. You know, people come and go, ideas come and go. I don't think it will disappear at the end of all of this, but I think people might need to change.
Yeah. Claire, it's been great talking to you. And wonderful to have you on board and helping us at Panda. We really appreciate it. I think we have a long battle ahead of us still. These levels of fear, this degree of misinformation. And as you've correctly pointed out, how do people climb down? I can't see a mechanism. I thought maybe the vaccine was going to be one, but then I saw Fauci on TV the other day saying that even if everybody gets vaccinated, we'll probably still have to wear masks and lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, and I don't want to get going on him because he perplexes me more than anybody else. I mean, I can sort of understand Tedros some of the time, but Fauci for me is a mystery because he called it all correctly, saying that this was going to be a minor story, and you also
asymptomatic spread
directly about asymptomatic transmission. You know, saying there's no other diseases where that's important. You know, but then he suddenly became the main panic merchant in the world. You know. And I just don't know. I don't understand it. I thought he would maybe it was political, and maybe he would slow down once Trump was defeated in an election. But that hasn't happened. He's just carried on. It's quite bizarre.
I don't understand it either. But I think, you know, Hanlon's razor. Hanlon's razor is that you should never attribute to malice what could be perfectly well described by incompetence. Yes. And I'm a great believer in Hanlon's razor.
Yes, I think that's correct. I've tried to talk people out all the time from this idea that there's a conspiracy. I just don't see it. I point out to them, I say, look, you're making the same mistake